Why are we here today? It's because actually the Belgian government decided to introduce a new legislation on the federal learning account. This actually is an initiative that comes from a broader perspective, as there is also a European directive on the introduction of individual learning accounts. But actually, the intention of this is to increase the importance of training in the career of employees, while also supporting continuous learning to acquire and broaden skills, obviously to help the the transition towards skills of the future. Should you want to have more information on this, obviously, feel free to navigate to the URLs here below on the screen. So what is the Federal Learning Account Platform? Actually, the platform is there to facilitate the execution of the law of the Federal Learning Account, which enables employers to manage individual as well as sectoral training rights for their employees. It will also allow to consult the training credits, which means that the entitled rights that are available or attributed to the employees. And as such, it will or it should allow you to add or to manage the course completions on top of or in this particular platform. When we look at the citizen side, it will allow citizens to consult their training account. I'm getting a message that my PowerPoint is not in the picture. Hang on, let me switch back here to see while this is. Hang on, screen sharing. Okay, this should be better. Apologies for that. So let's go back here. So this is screen sharing. Okay, screen sharing is okay. So this was the introduction I made. Apologies for that. Where the legislation I referred to, and obviously what the actual Federal Learning Account Platform is. So this is managed by the organization called SIGEDIS, who already manages the platforms like Career Pro, Pension Pro, so where you as a citizen have the access to see, okay, what is my pension, but also what is my career. So initially or additionally, this platform will also manage the trainings that you will acquire during your career, which obviously crosses multiple employers. So this is a central platform that will be cross-employer throughout the career of your employees. So obviously this also comes with obligations for you as an employer. It means that you will first have to make sure your employees are registered in the FLA. Typically this should be done within 60 days after the contract start date. Next to that, you will have to register completed training. So only completed training needs to be registered, which should include some basic course data like a title, short description, obviously the number of hours this training has taken, and completion time or date of that particular training. And that's something that you should do at least every quarter for every employee. Additionally, you should also verify and update accordingly what the training entitlements are, so the training rights. Typically, a full-time working person should be entitled, when they have a 40-day week, entitled to 5 days of training per year, which is obviously pro rata. If the employee works less, then also the rights will increase accordingly. And on top of that, you should also be able to inform employees of their training balance, of their situation, at least once a year. It doesn't say how you should do that, but obviously that's where we'll also discuss in more detail. Now, why is this, quote unquote, a headache for everybody here also on the call? Because most of you or have already SAP SuccessFactors learning, and obviously you have a Belgian entity larger than 200 employees, which means that you should you're falling under the under the new legislation. Now, every customer typically wants to have their LMS to be able to report on training information. You're gathering training records in that solution already. You will also need to calculate the different employee rights based on contract data that you have available. As the obligation also is that you would want to share that information with your employees so that their entitlements are known to them as well. Which also means that technically everybody should or would need to build the same interface to the federal learning account, which is obviously providing some customers or some people a headache. As we see that when you look at SAP SuccessFactors, Employee Central contains your contract data, your employee start date, your FTE, your working hours, etc. And on the other hand, we have SuccessFactors Learning that contains item details with the necessary training information, obviously also including the completion records of internal and or external training. Now, this obviously poses a challenge to you as our let's say dear customers, and this is something that obviously appeals to us to say, okay, how can we provide again peace of mind to you as a customer to make sure that you are comfortable in dealing with this additional challenge. And that's why, obviously, you know, or at least many of the attendees already here on the call know that we have these Flexso extensions for SAP SuccessFactors that allow you to resolve a particular challenge that you have within the standard SAP SuccessFactors capabilities. And also from that end, I can already confirm to you that at this point there is no, let's say, intention of SAP to focus on this particular challenge, let's say here in Belgium. So typically we have the custom extensions that allow us to create something very specific for a particular purpose. But on the other hand, you also have the productized extensions, which are standard solutions that we make available that are configurable and are obviously also as a SaaS solution, they come with automatic updates and maintenance. Just to announce or to share this next to our already known extensions like the TRM and the competency matrix and some of the others that we have, we are obviously proud to present you here also the training tracker solution. Again, should you have some information, should you require some information, feel free to reach out on this topic. Training Tracker, as I said, it's a new extension that we have built based on the new legislation that has been put in place, which is not that, let's say, that old, meaning that it's only recently that the government has put this in place, and it also has shared some insight into how it will work. So it is still a solution in motion that will still allow to become more mature, as we'll see in one of the next topics or slides. You'll be able to consult, obviously, what is spent, what is remaining trainings day per year, and based on the calculations that have been done automatically. But it will also allow you to transfer unused rights to the next year, because we're working with a 5-year time window, again, as determined by the government. Unused training rights will automatically transfer into the next year. It will also help you to introduce new employees that come from somewhere else, and automatically also help you with the calculation on the new training rights within your organization. Obviously, it's not just making sure that the calculations are happening or that we share the necessary information to the employees. There's obviously also the integration with the federal learning account system itself. And as you are familiar with our, let's say, approach, we always want to make this intuitive for every stakeholder. So how will this work? We'll have obviously SuccessFactors Learning and, let's say, Employee Central inputs. Based on that, we will calculate the necessary information and make it available through a graphical layout as well as a table layout towards, let's say, the employee. As you'll see next, we'll also develop or make available a manager/admin view And because one of the, let's say, options for the federal learning account is to include informal training, will also embed, let's say, an informal learning tracker capability going forward. With all this information available, we are also making let's say, the step towards Career Pro, to the federal learning account, initially through an SFTP batch upload file. So this means some of the key elements, as I mentioned, the pro rata calculations, credits based on Employee Central data, 5-year periods with the transition of data from 1 year to the next, the different views from let's say, an employee perspective on your information, and then obviously the integration towards the federal learning account. Just a few minutes of demo. Why just a few minutes? Because this is like a bit of an iceberg type of, a friendly iceberg type of extension, meaning you'll only see part of this, which is obviously visible. The whole integration piece is there, but obviously this is something that I can't just demo on the fly. But I'll go into the integration in more detail after the short demo. Let me quickly show you here. There we go. So when we're in SuccessFactors learning, or from anywhere that you would like to see, you'll have a tile or a click or a link through anywhere that we make available to the training tracker, which will also become possible or available in, let's say, the new learning experience when this is being released into the next release. That will also be able to, again, make custom tiles available. But for more information on that, I'm happy to invite you to, let's say, our release events coming up in the spring. Click on Training Tracker, which will open, let's say, a pop-up to quickly show the information to the end user. So first, you can open this on the graphical view, which then shows basically the whole period that has been determined. Let's say for demo purposes, we've tweaked it a bit to show this from 2021 to 2025. After this, I'll show you how it could look maybe when we start in 2024. So you'll see information on the spent data as well as the remaining data. Just by clicking on this, you'll also see a short, let's say, detail. And it will show you the entitlements that are calculated year after year. To show you also the table view, which will give you more granularity, more in-depth information on what it is that has been calculated. So here you'll see the entitlements that have been calculated, and the information that comes from SuccessFactors Learning that has been taken into account. So there also we'll see that there are also options to say, okay, we're going to exclude one or the other item type or items, let's say, from the calculation, and as such also from the integration. But you'll see here, plus 40 means 5 days working hours during this year. There's a deduction, which means there's a result of 24 remaining, which then transfers to the next year, which obviously then calculates more, as you can see. And this is something that you can depict in days or in hours as you are, let's say, as you wish. Next, you can also have a more detailed view just on the spent information. And again, here, this is again something that, I mean, while we're doing the last finishing touches, there are some elements that we're gonna, let's say, enhance or add, for example, to see, okay, can I have maybe the course description available from here, etc. So there are still room for thought and input also from, obviously, from your end. Next to that, we'll have navigation elements to the actual learning history in the system, or what is still in store, what's still on the learning plan for the end user. So again, as I said, this is just, I mean, at this point, what the solution does above the water. There is a lot more going on below the water, I would say. So let's go back here. Just maybe as a view how this would look in 2024, this is obviously the same type of image, but then on the full 2024-2028 scale with similar table view, which is also accessible through mobile. So if you open the link, you will see that it really nicely scales and accesses the same information and works in exactly the same way as it would on the desktop through a mobile view. Next on the interface, because that's obviously also a big concern for you. How does it work? Obviously, we'll see that you as an employer have the necessary information available. Information on what is the credit and what is the training. That is information that we process through the declaration to the first step in this process. At that point, there will be some, let's say, checking done by the Cegedis system. Is the, let's say, the format correct? Is there a signature that actually matches the let's say, the official representation? Is there an access, etc.? Is it okay to accept and process the data? That's basically this first step. After that, you get, or we get an acknowledged receipt, after which we can actually process the actual date, which will then be processed by the FLA system. It will also check on anomalies, meaning that if there's data incorrect, if there is an incorrect, let's say, enterprise number passed through, etc., that will obviously be checked through the processing at the FLA side. After which they will load the information into the platform and also update credit calculation that was initially also passed through. After which that we get a response with actually the update on the credit, or potentially with anomalies, which means that there have been errors on the data that have to be corrected. Now, this is always a full data, let's say, a full picture that we are making available, because it needs to work like that. So it's not an incremental way. So we always have to capture the full picture and send that on to. Typically, I would say there's one sync of this information per quarter. FLA doesn't require this to be updated all of the time. It can be just once a quarter. And keep in mind that is only a production environment, meaning that it's not possible to have a test environment of the FLA. At this moment, there still is, but that's because obviously we have the possibility to develop interfaces. But moving forward, this test environment will not be kept alive. How does this actually work? There's two options, because being Flexso, we are flexible. We are looking at, okay, how would different customers would like to work with us. So technically, we have, let's say, two employers that have already their, let's say, information that is actually coming through from the employers to the Social Security. For example, for Dimona, DMFA, etc. Actually, the first step will be to gather the inputs based on SuccessFactors Employee Central and SuccessFactors Learning, after which we will create the different XML files and make them available. In this case, you as an employee, as an employer, sorry, you're managing the integration towards the FLA yourself, meaning that you will post the XML file. We have created it, which means that an admin will be able to download that file from the training tracker and make that available or process that internally so that it becomes published or declared to the FLA. This is one way of working, which obviously allows us to make or to support you in this endeavor. It has a number, let's say, of advantages, of disadvantages. Obviously, here you are more in control of the data that is being sent through to the FLA, and you don't have to work with us to share access to that data. The downside is obviously that if there's any anomalies that you would need to work with that, let's say, with that file or with that output, Also on that end, I can share you will provide the necessary tools that will interpret the output from the FLA and help you with the interpretation of the anomalies so that you can correct them. Now there's a second option where you, let's say, give us a mandate, like you already do this, for example, with a social security bureau that will do this on behalf of you. And this is also an option that we will offer you as our customer. So when there is a mandate, obviously we'll still need to gather the input, but instead of making the file available to you for further processing, we will do the processing on your behalf, which means that we will also get the necessary information back on potential anomalies and work with you on correcting that information. So again, two different options depending on how you like to work with this solution. Furthermore, what's configuration or roadmap capabilities? I would say, in French they say "les goûts et les couleurs," meaning colors and labels, your choice. If you don't like our bright blue colors, but you'd like to have them in your own colors, all fine. We made that available. Fixed information like the company number, let's say Nazi code, etc. Different information that is actually needed for the integration, but is only, let's say, typically one set of information. Mapping with the necessary employee central fields like FTE, the social security number, etc. Selection of learning item types, as I mentioned, you don't have to send everything through. You can make selections there, but obviously it has to be in line with legislation. And you have also the option to include or exclude external events in SAP SuccessFactors. What's still in store for, let's say, the remaining of this year? We're almost there, but obviously we're looking a bit further than what we offer today. The manager and the admin view, I'll come back to that just in a few minutes, to make sure that also these stakeholders have a view in the necessary information. We'll also provide additional support for, one of the topical questions will probably be, will this also work for customers that do not have Employee Central? Obviously, it's highly recommended to have Employee Central available, but we'll make sure that we also have a solution available for non-EC customers. This will be a bit more maintenance on your end, but we'll make it happen. Towards the error handling, as I just mentioned, you'll probably get, or there will probably be information flowing back from the FLA that needs to be corrected or adjusted. To do that, I will also make the necessary tools available that will interpret this information and help you to, let's say, this technical information translated into readable information. Could be that there is additional company-specific calculation logic needed. For example, when there is next to the legal and sectoral training rights, there is also an organizational training right you'd like to include, or there are, let's say, additional logics that need to be made available. And the informal training tracker is, again, also something that we will develop and make available. Again, as an option, you don't have to do that, but as some of our customers already expressed this, this is definitely going to be an interesting way to track information. The admin view could, for example, look like this here, where or the manager view, where you will have information, for example, also including what is the FTE of this person, but more importantly also, how did the calculation actually went? So what is the calculation behind the numbers that are shared here, in addition to additional capabilities. So what are, let's say, practicalities to get started with this? Obviously, sign a contract with Flexso for this extension. I will make this obviously as smooth as possible. Next step is an optional mandate, as I mentioned, through the Mahis platform, where we can be recognized as a mandate holder for you. Next, obviously, there's an action on your side, which means you have to acquire the access to the further learning account, which is something that the responsible person for Social Security transfer in your organization can manage. Again, here, FLA will provide the instructions, but we can also support in that endeavor. Next, we'll have a configuration session to determine, let's say, the limited number of options for customers that already are working with us on Training Request Manager or Competency Matrix. It's nothing like that. It's obviously much smaller, just one session, and we have the information we will need. Next, we will have the setup and the validation on your first your preview or your dev setup. Afterwards, we do the switch towards the production instance. Now, obviously, this is a commercial, let's say, webinar as well, which means that I'll try to also give you some insight into the commercials. This should be familiar to at least more than half of the attendees today. There's a yearly subscription fee, which is user-based. It includes the releases, the roadmap, customer requested enhancements that you're familiar with from Flexso. It will include the SAP BTP hosting by Flexso. We'll have a small fee for including for setting up the software, and as you're also familiar with, we include also incident handling, which means that if there's a bug, we pick it up and solve it as part of the subscription fee. Should there be data error handling time needed, then obviously this is something that we can help you with. And again, should it be necessary, any configuration effort afterwards will also be at your side. To give you a bit of a, idea, because this will probably be one of the questions that's going to be asked: how much would this cost? Actually, this is the options that I just give you, just as a, as a way to give you an indication. So, option with the mandate, without the mandate, for a number of users. If you have like 20,000 users all in your organization across the world, but you only have like 1,500 users that actually need this, obviously you'll only pay the fee for the 1,500 users. As we obviously prefer that we help also our existing customers, we have lowered the setup fee to help our existing customers getting started. But we're obviously happy to also invite you as a new extensions customer for this extension or for one of the others. Feel free to reach out for your price on your own request. These are just rounded numbers. If you want to have, let's say, the number for 3,200, we can obviously give you that through email. Some of the questions that we typically would expect are, okay, what are the SuccessFactors modules that we need? As I already said, learning will be required, obviously. SuccessFactors Learning is a required solution. Next to that, we highly recommend Employee Central, but it will also work eventually without Employee Central. But again, it will help you, it will help us to make sure that EC is in place. Typical question I can also expect, yes, but we are not working with SuccessFactors Learning. We have everything else in SuccessFactors. Will it work with another LMS? I'll say case by case. So we know there are some customers in the room that did not yet decide to go for SuccessFactors Learning, that are working, for example, with Cornerstone. So there, I would say case by case. It is possible to do this technically, but it also depends on the integration options of your third-party LMS. But let's talk. We're always happy to investigate the options with you. Is April 1st the real deadline? Yes and no, meaning to date, I have not received any other information than, yes, this is actually going live at the FLA at April 1st. We are in close contact with the FLA, but to date, we have not given or received any other information. Does this mean that you have to be ready by April 1st? No, meaning that there is at least the room of the 3 months let's say, time before you have to have published your initial, let's say, push to the FLA. And even then, I really imagine that the first month, first year, the FLA will not penalize customers because they haven't been able to get started with this. But on the other hand, when you are up and running, I mean, check the box. This is something that helps you also towards your employees. Do we have to give Flexso a mandate? Yes and no, meaning yes, if you like to have us process that information for you. No, because you can obviously also rely on your, let's say, existing, let's say, distribution towards the Social Security, and we will just do the groundwork to help you with creating the files. What do you mean with error handling? As I explained, this is typically information flowing back from the system, not errors, meaning that it didn't work, etc. No, this is structured data that has been, let's say, processed by the FLA that says, okay, the number for this is the number for this type of training is incorrect, or let's say your company code is incorrect for this employee, etc., etc. So there is typical information flowing back that needs to be processed to ensure that your records are accurate. Will this extension also work for validated LMS customers, as more the pharmaceutical, medical appliance companies? Yes, because actually this is not, let's say, breaking into the validation concept. We're only extracting data from SuccessFactors learning, so we're not putting back in there. So there's no, let's say, real integration. So you can safely, let's say, add this onto an already validated LMS environment. What happens if there are changes in the law that have an impact on the training tracker? Let's say that's our responsibility. So we will obviously make sure, as you are, so some of you are familiar with other extensions, if there's something changing either in the law or in SAP, let's say we will fix and maintain that as part of the contract. Does Flexso have the intention to support similar initiatives in other EU countries? We're always, let's say, happy to talk and to listen to whatever comes our way. At this point, I don't have any concrete information that this is going to be the case in other countries. But if so, we're happy to support you with that across multiple countries. Having said that, that's what I wanted to cover, let's say, in this roughly 30 minutes webinar. Obviously, feel free to reach out to us should you would like to have some more information, either on the FLA, on the integration capabilities, etc. But obviously, we're happy to get your peace of mind again on this particular topic and like to work with you on implementing our training tracker. We'll make sure the presentation is also shared through the recording. But if there's any, let's say, any Q&A questions that you still have at this point, happy to answer and take those while we are still in the air. Do we have any questions coming up? Let me see if okay. The questions: can the extensions also integrate informal trainings that employees put in themselves? Is there a possibility for an approval flow? So yes, so this will be one of the topics that we're developing next, is this informal training capturing. Whether or not you put an approval flow on that, that will be a choice that you would be making, but because obviously you would like maybe some due diligence on that. But yes, this will be an option that we will make available this year. When the data per quarter has been sent over and processed, can it still be corrected afterwards? Actually, yes. So as I explained, it's a full picture processing, which means that we take a snapshot of what it is today. If there is something that actually was not corrected, we simply take a new picture and send that afterwards back to the FLA. So there's no incremental, or there's no, let's say, carved in stone type of information. It is something that we can process time and time again, typically once per quarter. But should it be necessary, it can be done, I mean, on a daily basis. But yeah, let's not go that way. But yes, so it can always be corrected. What's the estimate in days for implementation? Actually, as I mentioned, it's a very light implementation. So there's some work to be done at our end, at your end. Typically, when following the necessary instructions, I would say give it an hour or two, and before you have all the information that you will need or that we will need. Then next is the actual configuration session, which may only take an hour or so. The deployment of the solution there, we have our tools available to make this also, let's say, streamlined, to make this like a very smooth operation. So roughly, I would say end to end, when we start on Monday, it should be working on Friday. That's, I think, what we ideally could imagine. So that's definitely not a heavy lifting implementation effort here, provided we have the necessary information available, but we'll make sure that this is a smooth process. If learners spend more training than entitled, will that also move to the next year? Can be taken into account for the next year? Actually not. So this is something, as I think also in the graphs you see, you can overspend on a particular year, which means that, yeah, you've spent more than you were entitled to, which means that your entitlements for that year are set to 0. Next year, you will be entitled again for 5 days. So while training entitlements, which are a right, they carry over through the next year. When you spend more, it will not be considered as part of the training rights for the next year. So that is something to take into account. So this is also something that maybe employees, and that's why we would like to make that also available to employees, this view, that they can keep in mind, say, okay, I'm already at, let's say, at my training rights maximum. Maybe I'll take this training next year. It's something to consider. It's not something we have something to say in. It is, let's say, something that the FLA has put in place. How many years will be taken into account in the picture snapshot, as over some years we can accumulate a lot of data quickly? Yeah, good question. Actually, this is a year-by-year view, meaning that once a year, for example, 2024, suppose we're January 2025, we do then a final push of 2024, which means that after a certain period, that year would be closed, meaning it's wrapped up, done. This is it, guys. So we're not accumulating year after year. So suppose we're January 2028, so there's 4 years of data to process. No, it will only be year after year that this will accumulate. And managing this across 1 year, that is still doable, I would say. But keep in mind, this is indeed accumulating a lot of data. So if you have, 10,000 users and they all take, let's say, 10 days of training, this is a lot of data. And this is where, obviously, through our expertise, we're used to handling this large amount of learning data in our extensions. So yeah, it requires some, let's say, some knowledge to be able to process this correctly. Is the reason why there's no live integration because it's only done every quarter? I would say for now, it is a choice that we've made at this moment, meaning that indeed there is no live integration, meaning it's not an API-driven or web services-driven approach. Is because indeed we would like first to get this started and make sure that it works across the, let's say, across the board, so that we can also gain experience at our end as well as at your end. Going forward, we have the intention also to see, okay, does it help you as a customer or as for us as well, to go for a more API-based approach, which will also have the same security measures, etc. So there's no difference there. But essentially, there are a number of reasons why we are not doing this live integration yet. But yeah, happy to discuss more on that if you like. But I would say stay tuned because it is definitely on our roadmap to include that that logic as well. All right. I think there were no more further questions. But if you have any further questions, happy to take them. Feel free to reach out to me. You have my email address, my contact details. thanks for joining so, let's say, abundantly, and we'll be talking to each other soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.